come around once in a blue moon, just to show you that we love you and we'll never leave, 'cause we are anointed.
Good evening, guys. What's going on? This is Marvin Burwell here with the Health Nature 2 preview event. As usual, just like I did for the first event, I give a preview to give you guys kind of a preview of what it is that I'm going to be doing at the actual event. Now, of course, the setup won't be perfectly the same as right now, but some of the visual aids that I'm showing here kind of match up to what I'll be doing. So to my left here, you have the PowerPoint presentation slides, and over to my right, which you'll actually see in a little bit, is going to be the illustration side, when I usually go in and I speak about a certain topic that might be presented on the slides, or if someone asks a question based on the topic I'm on that I can further elaborate on, we'll be able to do that. Okay, what's going on right now? Okay, Philadelphia, PA is where we're located at. We got some people who are going to be traveling in from other locations to attend the event. So a lot of the information that you need is on the Marvin Health and Arts page on Instagram, Facebook, and also have a YouTube page, which this video will actually be going on. Saturday, January 25th, 2020 vision, right? At the Old Pine Community Center down near South Street. So if those of you who are very familiar with South Street, it's a very popular location in Philadelphia. It's actually close to South Street, 4th and South Street, and you just walk a block over. So it's not difficult to get to. As of right now, the event is going to be from 3:30 to 8:30. The doors will be opening at 3 p.m. I might do a warm-up event somewhere within that period of time where I, just ask people some quick questions, little quick facts and stuff like that. Sometimes I like to have a little fun warming up. The Ticket Leap is on the Facebook page. There's a link there. There's also a link on the Instagram page. If you go up to the top of the profile page on the Instagram page, most people put links there in their, we call it the bio, and you could just click on that and it'll take you to the ticket link page. For those of you who are not digitally savvy yet, you do have the ability to call me and set up different payment options. There's also the Cash App option, Venmo, and straight PayPal, but there's some questions I'll have to ask you with it because they normally come with the tickets. And once you make that payment, I will send you the actual ticket personally, usually to people's cell phone. They'll get a copy of the ticket and then you'll get regular reminders. All right. So now that we got that information out the way, what are we talking about here today? I wanted to go into the subject of children. What's going on when you're ready to have a child? What is that child getting themselves into in this thing we call the physical space of Earth, the universe, and so on and so forth? All right, let's switch the slide over here. So, it takes a village, right? Not a single person. In the world today, we have a tendency to kind of push the individual. And don't get me wrong, I understand it, but the main reason that we are pushing for the individual to be strong is because the pieces are missing from when they're growing up as a child. Now, some people are going to have personal reserves. They're going to feel like they're okay. Like, there's no such thing as a thing gone wrong, so to speak. But you do have to understand, in nature, it's not much of an emotional thing. It's more of a process of energy movement. And feelings are something that is programmed to a specific situation based on the way the environment is moving. So when you have a child, the village is very important. The individuals raising the child are one thing, but the world is full of more than just parents. It's full of the people in the immediate community. And nowadays we're in the digital realm. So the community even includes people outside the house who show up on the TV and disperse messages to the people within your household to make them see the world in a certain light. So let's keep that in mind. It does take a village, and it doesn't matter whether you feel like that village is trustworthy or not. They are there regardless. If there's a neighbor you don't like, someone down the street you don't like, people they're going to school with, something on TV, something you perhaps don't let your child watch, but other children watch, your children are going to be exposed to many different things, subconsciously and consciously, that are going to affect their lives based on the way that they interact with that environment. So it takes a village, not a single person. Developing the single person is the small piece needed to develop an entire village. So the person, yes, is important, but one person is not going to solve all problems. It takes a village. All right. Let's move on. All right. Now, as I explained in the first event, I was raised under a half Christian household. So my mother's side of the family was Christian. My dad's side of the family actually believed in God, but were mostly non-Christian while I was growing up, or at least that was my understanding of it, definitely in my immediate family. So with that being said, a lot of my information can be correlated quite well to the Christian way of saying something that would come out of the Bible. It doesn't mean that you have to be a Christian or you have to believe in anything concerning Christianity. It's just used for the sake of understanding. These are simple concepts and ways that we say things when you grow up of the Christian faith, that you have the ability to articulate things in a certain manner. Now, most people who know me, I'm not your conventional Christian. Like it's not what you're given as like a summary of what the actual Christian is. I have a way that I see things and a way that I think about things based on me reading the scripts on my own. So that's something you should understand about me. Do not address me like your standard Christian that is kind of pushed out here in society, because chances are you're going to get yourself confused. So each person should, this is where the whole single person and what the single person does come in at. You have to search yourself for what it is that's important to you and look at things the way you look at them. But just make sure that there's a love that comes out of it, a concept of the whole, a holistic point of view of what it is you do. And make sure it's not selfish and damaging and hateful. Okay? With that being said, with that little bit of background, Proverbs 22:6. Train up a child in the way he should go or she go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Now, a lot of people look at that as like it's a lock and key kind of thing. For the most part, it kind of is, mainly because children are like an empty tape deck or an empty hard drive or an empty house. You have to fill it with personality. And it's very easy to do that when there's nothing in there from the start. So those are the things that stick, because there's going to be a long period of time in a row where the child is receiving things surrounding that culture, that information, that knowledge, that village, that's kind of giving the child the way to look at things. So that's going to stick because the child has nothing there. And then these are the things that come in, and these are the things that the child constantly gets bombarded with for several years of the beginning of their life. So it sticks a lot harder. And when you get older, you have so much in there already, it's hard to take that same amount of time and pay attention to something else. Okay, so the body has a transitional thing it does, but it requires time and it requires diligence and focus. So if the child, I think there's a saying that goes like, give me 7 years of the child's life and I'll give you the adult. Well, the reason is because those 7 years are something that's being shoved into that child. That's 7 years of information that's constantly being fed and repeated constantly. And then the child gets old enough and finally has this boundary, this grouping or pieces of a bunch of information that the child started with and has been hearing repetitively over time. And now that child is recalling only that information constantly. So when you insert new information in there, the child's comparing it to what's already there. And then the child has more of a disposition because of the repetitive nature of something when they were growing up towards the information they first received. So being able to go against that grain and who gave it to them and all that stuff, that gets a little tricky. And that's what makes it hard for, as the child gets older and turns into an adult, for that person to change. It's the repetitive nature of what came before. That's what you're kind of trying to break down the walls of that to get something new in. And that's what makes it difficult. Impossible? No, it's definitely possible. But a person has to be conscious and awake to the fact of this and the things that could be. And then they have to focus on the new thing for a certain amount of time for the turnover to happen. Okay? So again, you train up the child in the way the child should go. And when the child is older, the child will not depart from it because it's the first thing that got in. And it's been repeated time after time after time until the child got older and the new info came in, but the child already has something standing in the way of the change. So you would have to basically take the new information, the new concepts, and apply a long time period towards it to slowly override the thing that was learned in the beginning. Okay? All right. 1 Corinthians 13:11. When I was a child, I spake as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. This one is tricky. And I'm going to illustrate some things in a little bit. And the reason it's tricky is because there is everything that goes on with a child in the beginning is about survival. You see this with animals a lot too. It's the same with humans. When a child is young, child doesn't know, they're coming out of the womb and they see things moving and they hear things and things happen, twitch, pop, all these snapping, all these different things that works out the child's senses start to happen. And eventually the child realizes that people are speaking and paying the child attention. But the child doesn't understand language in the beginning. The child understands all the different pieces that come along with what they're hearing. So when you say something a certain way and you move your face different ways and you make certain mannerisms with your hands like I'm doing now when I'm talking, a child is staring at you intently because they're studying everything about the communication you're giving, not just the words. The sounds are being attached to the motions. And that's what the child's picking up. So you need to keep that part in mind. But here's the thing. If it's all about survival, what you don't give the child or you don't appease in the child based on what the child sees in the environment will cause that child to become a man and not be able to put away the childish thing. They'll be searching for the thing that they believe is necessary for them to survive. So I'll get to more on that in a little bit. All right, here we go. Romans 12:2. And this is the last one. And for those of you who are very familiar with your Bible, I clipped a piece of this one. There's a word before and a couple of words after, okay? But I wanted to make a point here. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is good. I guess some words I'm going to add in there come the actual event. Prove what is that good. That's not correct. There's some typo in there, but that's okay. This is the preliminary. So this is why I go through things, to be able to fix things later on. Okay, right? So based on what I said earlier, they say, train up the child in the way the child should go and the child won't depart from it. But then this comes later on. Don't be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And the mind is a really big deal. I'm gonna give a little something more here. So this is the point where I'm gonna transition everything over to the board, okay? And I'm gonna start to illustrate some things so that we can bring you up to speed on what it is that goes on when a child becomes an adult and why it's important that we pay attention to these things and not let even the smallest things go by the wayside if we can help it. Okay, so 1 second, we're gonna rotate over here towards the board. I'm gonna keep going, all right? Angle over a little bit here. All right, let me make sure, looking at the camera, make sure I'm in there, right? Make sure I'm in there. All right, so here we are. We got the whiteboard. Got some books here. Be nice for you guys to check out, but let's shove those out of the way for a little bit. I have a preliminary drawing here of a female body. Don't worry about the hair. I didn't go all in on details, but we got the child down here inside of the belly. All right, got my markers here so we can go in a little bit. Now, concepts. Here's the individual beginning of the concept a person must understand. Every human being wants to know, what's the point? What's the purpose? Why are we here? And all these things like that. Life is an experience to be had. Life, the physical life, lends details physically to spiritual concepts. What we usually call spiritual is that everlasting energy that we like to call God, right? So we have this here. We have the big old circle, the ether, God, and all that stuff like that, right? And we're going to fill that circle because that circle is full of potential, complete potential for any and everything to happen, right? Anything else inside is the alpha. Anything outside is the omega. So basically the all-encompassing. Everything is possible within, nothing is possible outside, but there is no outside because everything that is potential to be It's inside of the entity that we call God, the ether, the everlasting, whatever you want to call it. This black circle here that we have drawn will represent what we like to call God, the everything. Now, you can't separate anything from the all. You have to understand that. The words we speak, the life we live, all these things we say, this is God, that's not godly, that's not. Anything that has the potential to be is of God. You as a human being, let's use a different color for this. You as a human being are a drip out of the old cup of water, right? So in the beginning, there was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God, and all those things like that. What you're talking about is a negation, a removal from a thing, but still a piece of a thing. So, boop, right outside, there's you or anything or any specific thing right there. You're a scoop out of the old cup of ocean. You can't do as much as, but you are a potential to. The potential to become many different things. Why? Because of the mind. The mind is the accessing of the all. And if it can be thought of and it can be perceived, it can be in the physical. And if it can't be perceived. So if God is everything in all things, if there is something God can do or the ether can do or whatever can do that man cannot do, we would never know of it because it would be conceived within there, but not within us. So what can be, and what can't be, can't be. Okay? So you can never say they're playing God. Although I get it, right? You're a scoop out of the old cup of water. So therefore you have potential like, but you are not exactly God. But God is capable of what you would call good and evil. But you name that and you do that because you are of mind, which means you're potential. And when you're a scoop out of the old cup of water, potentials can be manifested in you in the physical form. Okay? So what you're talking about is moving from spirit to physical. And let's write those two pieces down. Spirit, physical. All right. One cannot exist without the other because if the spirit is the potential of manifestation of all things. So spirit is God. When God negates from self, then God can become something physical. A sound is physical. Light is physical. Things are physical. Me drawing and writing and doing all these things are physical. We are manifestations of that potential that is God. Okay. I'm giving you concepts. You don't have to agree. I'm trying to give you understanding and bring you to a point that I was just addressing earlier. So I want you to follow me, okay? Like I said, you may have a way you see things. That's fine. Just take the understanding, follow the steps, and see how I'm able to connect things so you have some further understanding and something, to enlighten. All right, so we got the spiritual and physical. That which is spirit has to lend substance to itself. And in order to do that, it must participate in the physical. Okay? So a spiritual thing would be something that you see in your head, dreams and the such, things you think of, things that could be. You got the potential. You're a piece of the potential, and you all are trying to manifest things from turning it from a wave, the wave of potential, into a particle. You concentrate on something, it contracts, and you make it physical. This is what's going on. So spiritual things need physicality to lend substance to spirit. You may think of laying down in a bed, but when you actually do it, you lend substance to that spiritual concept, which is that which came out of your mind. A bed doesn't exist until you take things that exist and create something else and then name it and then participate in the physical thing of it to lend substance to the spiritual thing. The spiritual thing was what you came up with. The manifestation of it is the physical. When you experience the physical form of it, you lend substance to the spiritual. Who knows what cotton feels like until you physically feel it. And now when you dream, you can dream of feeling cotton. You lent substance to something spiritual. Okay? Now, we got that part out of the way. So we got the wave collapsing into a particle. The word became flesh. The potential became something. The spirit turned into something physical. Okay, you got the connection here? Cool. Now, let's make our way over here. Now that you know you're a part of the great all, everything here is a piece of the all. It was once potential, now you are. And because you are, you can start making things become things. You can take things spiritually happening within you and make physical things out of it. And this is what happened. As what we call God or the ether has negated from self to create a little piece, mother over here has negated from self to create a little piece. In order for her to conceive, man negated sperm from his self, gave to mother. So he negated a piece of himself, gave to mom. And now mom is negating a piece of self so that child can come out and exist within, right? Let's get some green land masses, right? Let's do our cheesy makeshift earth, you know. And as we got earth, some water, right? Water. And our makeshift earth. So now this child exists here on earth, but let's take a step back. Everything is holistic, right? Because I'm talking about holistic sciences. And now we're going to start working our way into the real health thing. You have different people in your family. You have a lineage. You know, let's say we got original man, original woman, original animal, original all these things, right? And instilled in you is a way to survive in the environment. You know, children like to walk around and taste things and touch things and bang things against each other and learn things. They're learning how to survive in their environment. They're trying to see what works, what can be eaten, what can be played with. That's what they're trying to learn. But we know we were born into a world where a lot of these things have already been happening. So we have the mother, the father principle, or the masculine and feminine principles, right? The yin yang, ma'at, the balance of two things, because it takes two to tango. We have a spirit, we have a physical, we have water, we have land, we have male, we have female. You know, we have this and we have that. You know, we got a bunch of two-sided things, and there's always full of a masculine, feminine principle. And a child, whether that child comes out male or female, will hold a little bit more of one principle than the other. So generally what we like to say, you know, when you get older, you get married, you have these conscious concepts. What man tends to do is man gives up love to receive power. Woman gives up power to receive love. We tend to find ourselves going that way. And when I say man, woman, we're talking about masculine, feminine concepts. They have something that they can gather from one another. If God is the all and each of us hold a piece of that all, then by communicating and connecting with one another, we experience more of God, the ether, or the all. And that's what the experience on earth is about. Experiencing spiritual things physically and lending substance to the physical thing. Okay? You have two parents who come together. They did things with their life separately. They both come together. You now have predispositions within the child. Everything that happened from the mother and the lineages prior, and from the father and the lineages prior. Lineage, when I say that, I just mean the people who came before them. Grandfather, great-grandfather, ancestors, all the way back. Okay? The child is ready to be made up of those two things coming together. Faults and all. If the father has anger issues, the mother doesn't. Child will have some form of predisposition of anger because of the father, predisposition of love because of the mother, hence creating this middle ground between the two. But at the same time, it also includes a conglomeration or a mixture of the people who came before them, because the body does not look at the previous generation only. It doesn't trust the system that well. The body looks at a lineage of things going back. It's just that the two immediate people coming together hold a nice piece of the pot. But the things that came before come too. This is how two parents who come together who might be basketball players get a child who don't. Because there's things that came before them that feed into that too. Environmental factors feed in. Do you come from a hot or cold climate? Those things are involved when those two parents come together to conceive a child. Okay? Got that. Now, this child is in here, inside of, and the child sits in fluid. And there's a reason why. Because emotions, emotion, right? Let me get another color. Let's get the red one in here, right? Emotion. Now you can name it one or the other. You can call it electronic motion. You can call it energy in motion. Either way, it's movement of an electrical thing. The reason this child is sitting in this watery fluid right here is because electrical signals move faster in water. And because electrical signals move faster in water, we're able to take electric connections, the body's electric, and the child is able to receive the emotions of the mother through electrical charges. And, when they do tests on these things, when the mother goes through emotions, there's light like pulsating around the child. And that connection from the mother to the child is because the child is not out in the world yet. The child is not here yet. So in order for that child to get predispositions of what environment it's going to go into, it's going to go by what the mother's experiencing. So here we have the emotions of the two parents and some of the lineage before and the experiences they had coming together. Now, while that mother is conceiving over those weeks and monthly periods, the father and the mother's communication and the communication of the village we talked about earlier, all those different things the mother experiences giving her emotions and perceptions about the environment. And the child is receiving them through electrical signals in this watery sac that the child is sitting in. So don't think because the child isn't born, the child isn't receiving information about the environment. It's coming from the mother. If the father releases a vibration through his voice and it causes the mother to be scared, chemicals and electrical charges are created within the mother based on the voice the mother heard. When the mother hears a voice, that's an electrical signal going through the mother. The child can hear it. And when it passes through, and suddenly the thing coming behind it is a fear response from the mom, which is an electrical chemical signal, the child is going to feel it. Now, when that child comes out of the womb, again, when the child comes out and is now out here in the world, right? Then the child has the experiences of, let me get a different color here. Let's get the red. That child is now getting the experiences of the environment, which is a little broad. I should have wrote something a little smaller, but environment like the people, and you got temperature, food, and I guess you could, we'll leave it right there because we got environment, people, temperature, food. That kind of covers a nice base of things. Before that child came out, when the two parents were coming together, when they first were, they were having sex, they were conceiving. And then they actually, they go through the process of it. And that first conceiving happened. That energy is transferred from the father into the mother because of that friction and watery response they were having during sex, right? They're unleashing information, right? Her emotions are going a certain way. His are going a certain way. He's passing sperm, which is a chemical, electrochemical, emotional kind of thing that he's released into the mother. And then the mother's emotions came at the same time, and the berry was formed, the child was formed. We got different names for it. It's different stages, right? Now the child is experiencing the environment from the mother. Now the child comes out. Now it's time to lend form to substance. It was a spiritual feeling. It was an emotion, electrochemical, magnetic forces coming to that child while in that womb. Spiritual forces, things I can't sing, things that are being perceived, right? And now I'm out in the physical. And now I have to lend substance to those spiritual things. If the father was an a-hole, made the mother mad all the time, when the father's voice crackles and crowns, the child is going to recognize the voice. And the child may have a disposition of attitude to that voice, where the child might cry when the father holds the child because something in that child recognizes the trauma the mother felt. Now, are these things guaranteed? Look at all the pieces. You're talking about a lot of math here. You're talking about lineages prior, what went on during the pregnancy, what the mother and father felt emotionally, what the rest of the family made her feel emotionally. There's a lot going on. So I'm not telling you that I can mathematically guess how a child will come out, but we can use these things as markers to things to make sure that we get correct so that we don't wind up with a child who is damaged or has a negative mindset of the environment when the child comes out. That's what I'm trying to say. But you have to be aware of these things to let you know it is important for things to go a certain way before you have a child. Make sure you understand the person you're with. Make sure they're of love mindset. We all have faults and things we do wrong, but make sure there's a love there when two people come together. You both love one another. And then make sure as the child, the mother's going through the phase, there's love there. There's love in your village and in your community as best as you can. So when the child comes out, there's only love. Now that child's going to come out. And it's going to be doing all this staring at things. It'll get a lot of sleep because there's a lot of development going on. And the child will wake up to be fed because the breasts are the chemicals the mother put in her body that the child cannot properly receive from things in the environment yet because it's not fully developed to take on certain things. Picking back up where we left off, right? We were talking about the child is now coming out and is in the atmosphere. There's a whole lot of math going on between the ancestors of both parents, the grandparents, and what happened before the child came out. We were talking about those things, right? We were talking about how the environment that the parents were in and the ancestors prior are being put together in the one child. Then the experience of the mother in the environment is being fed electrically and chemically to the child while inside of the womb. Through electrical signals, what the mom feels, the child will feel. We explained all that. Child comes out into the world. Now the child is lending form to substance. The substance or the faith, the substance of things, right, is the spiritual thing, now in physical form, trying to match the two up to survive. And if survival is there, thriving comes next. If survival is not set, thriving never happens, and the child will be in survival mode until the thriving mindset sets in, meaning all the survival things have been taken care of. So the child comes out, who's feeding me? Okay, when the child is put on the mother's chest or belly, so that the mother, when the child first comes out, sit the child on the mother. The heat is felt, the warmth felt, the mother is staring, the mother's smiling, making noises, the child hears it, the child knows everything's all right. If the father was of loving, then that voice will even further warm the child up. The child will sleep, wake up, take of the mother's breast in order to feed themselves, right? And as the mother feeds the child is gaining a stronger bonding connection with the mother. Because remember, the child cannot eat the plants and the things that are out here in the world because the defense system is not fully developed yet. So what happens is when the mother takes things in, proper nutrition, making sure no chemicals or anything bad is in there, then breast milk is literally one step from blood. It just doesn't have the heme in it, but it has all the nutrition and all the factors that come along with it. So when the child feeds from the mother, that mixture, that stew that's put together in the breast milk is something necessary for that child. The mother and the child have a connection. So what goes through the mother is brewed into a nice little soup of things necessary for this child to grow. This is why the child must breastfeed from the mom. It also includes all those white blood cells and little things that are needed to build the child's immune system. So what happens is the child doesn't have the strongest defense, but when the child takes in the mother's milk, it assimilates defense mechanisms from the mom and defends the child. So there's a unison and connection there. Now the child gets older. The child starts staring at everybody, trying to connect, like the item to the substance, right? Child hears a voice, looks, whose voice is that? What are you saying? Then the child eventually begins to walk, run, wants to taste things, touch things. That's where it's time for the mother and the father to guide the child. Don't taste and touch that, taste and touch this. Here's why. You start teaching the child. You start training the child in the way the child should go so that the child won't leave from it. Now, if your village is torn up, like we were talking about earlier on the slide presentation, then you're going to have problems. Because everything you train that child to become when that child gets older, you're only going to get a few years where you can instill as much as possible into that child. So if you don't give the child time, you don't give the child attention, the child is going to notice other people are getting time and attention and thinks that's what's necessary to survive. How does a child know? Because smiling gives off good chemicals. Frowning gives off bad chemicals. When a child is not receiving something and, all that staring, watches someone else receive something and make that person smile, the child is going to believe that's what's necessary for them. We like to call it jealousy. Why I'm supposed to have that, right? So I start finding ways to get it. My parents may tell me no, but I'm watching other people smile when they receive it because that's a part of the village. If the child comes in contact with it, it's helping the child grow, whether you intend for the child to receive it or not. TV, radio, newspaper, neighbors, friends, going to school in front of all these different kids whose parents allowed them to do things your parents didn't allow you to do. If those children go do it and they're smiling and they're happy and laughing and people are accepting them, your child is going to feel the same way. So you get it? You see how this thing is working its way into a holistic nature? This is the really big deal here when we're talking about the child. We talked about what happened before the child came out, when the two parents were coming together. We mentioned what went on prior to those two coming together. Then we talked about when conception, is within the mother. Then the mother starts to have experiences, and that's shaping what the child is going to feel about the environment. And then the child comes out, and it's like if the mother went through a whole lot of emotional trauma, the child is coming out thinking that in order to survive, they have to have a bit of a reserved and scared nature from the environment. So you start staying away from stuff. You start showing signs of like being a hermit. I don't want to be around anything because the perceptions I got from the mother is that the environment is dangerous. And in order for me to stay alive, I need to cower. I need to stay away from things, but I still need to eat. You see what I mean? So the child tastes and touch things and looks for things to eat. If the mother gave off signals not to trust anybody, people are trying to feed the child don't want that, will go feed itself. You start getting all these different things. And like I said, you're not going to be able to personally do the math and lock down exactly what things a child will not like, what personality they will or won't have. You won't be able to calculate everything. You're born into a world that's years and years and years and eons after the genetic structures started. So there's a lot of cascading things coming into one child. The closest two people give you somewhat of an idea of what the child will be like, but it will never be to a perfect science. You think because the two parents are talkative, the child's going to come out talkative. It doesn't work like that. There's more info piggybacking that. There's more experiences the mother had piggybacking that. It's a whole lot going on, piggybacking what a child will become. And if your village is very loving and caring and feeds people and says loving things and people smile and laugh a lot, then the child will come out and receive love and laughter and attention and everything the child needs. And when the child gets older, will become a man and will put away childish things. The childish things were what the child needed to realize the child could survive in the environment. When the child receives those things and receives proper teaching and proper knowledge on how to survive within the environment and feels as though they are missing nothing as far as surviving, then the child will grow as a human being and be able to self-function within a village, within a proper environment. The child receive love, so will give love. The child receive food, so will give food. The child receive words of affirmation, so the child will give words of affirmation. And whatever is not there, the child may be lacking in. So if the mother's not there and there's no female figure to step in and give feminine principle to that child will act far more masculine. And if most of the masculine people in that neighborhood had a little bit of a tough side, they don't give words of affirmation, they don't show but so much love, then the child will be a little bit more hardened. You see what I mean? But they can be changed by the renewing of their mind. It will be harder because it's an older person. It's better to raise strong children than to fix broken men. You may have heard that before. That's what they mean. There's a lot of predispositions going into a child before they're born and then after they're born. And then when the child gets older, all of those things come together and start to show up, whether it was more positive or more negative. And how that child is experiencing life as an adult will show you whether it's more positive and negative. If you have issues trusting people when you get older, we know there was issues with trust when you were growing up. Something caused you to become a certain way. You don't just become a certain way to be a certain way. Something in the environment, coming from the people, the temperature, the food, or something is causing you to act in a certain capacity. Because if everything was cool and all right, you would always be ready to be cool and all right. Okay? All right, peoples. We really went in. I think we went over 30 minutes with this one. But I hope you got plenty from that. That was just a few slides. And I could give that as a better summary, but I wanted to give you guys, this is a preview. I wanted to give you some real substance here. I wanted you to understand what we get ourselves into when we have a child, and we were once a child, and some of us are parents. So I want you to see holistically. We talked about the ether or God. We talked about the spiritual and the physical. We talked about its manifestation into humans, how humans come together and manifest something else that comes out from spirit to become a physical thing, to experience the environment, the people, the temperature, the food, the emotion, so on and so forth. We walked it holistically. Now, when this whole thing is flushed out, come the event, you're even going to get a few more tidbits that I didn't include in here, right? And it's going to be things that really matter. I'm going to show you how we got where we are and the pitfalls that we find ourselves in, the physical, the chemical, the emotional stressors, right? We're going to go through all those things as much as we can. You're at least going to get a broad spectrum scope. I got some surprises coming for the event, but you're not going to know until the early bird tickets are no longer on sale. So if you guys are so curious, you want to come out, you want to hang with the family, hang with the community, because I have this event set up like a village, like a community. There's a reason I structured it the way I did. So give me a call, contact me, ask questions. I don't mind. I want you to come hang with the community, with your peoples. I want us to get out here and experience the energy that different people bring. I want you to come check out the energy that our vendors are going to have and things you don't know about how to survive holistically and not harm oneself, and look at their products and see the types of things we found in the world we live in that are actually helping us and not hurting us. We're bringing that kind of communication and community together. That's what I want you to come and experience. The information is great, but the information is meant to empower a community, empower a people, so that you'll become the person who is a light and a hope and a beacon in your community. And then more of us will come together, and those little pieces, those scoops out of the old cup that we call God will start to come together. And as the scoops come together, we're getting a bigger piece of the all. So we truly experience heaven on earth, because this is the full heaven, the potential to be. And when we become, and then we come together where 2 or 3 are there gathered in my name, there I shall be in the midst of them. The more of them you put together, the more of the ether, the all, God, you experience on earth. And if those are a loving and caring people, now you're truly living in heaven. All right, people. Health Nature, baby. Health Nature. So go to the Ticket Leap link. I'm going to put it down the bottom in the YouTube video. Go to the Ticket Leap link. Grab your ticket. It's $20 if you came to the first event. Check your email. It'll be there. And only until Halloween for those who have the discount code. You got the early bird tickets on sale up until November 15th. After that, the price will go up because it's no longer early bird tickets. New information will come out. Vendors and the such. I'm not going to tell you what the such is yet, right? But I want you guys to come on out. It's not a lot. We're going to have some people there with some really good food for you to try. Some new information you're going to be able to experience within your environment. When you leave, you're going to have things to look forward to. And we'll continue to find ways to bring the community together after that and experience new things. All right, guys? Health Nature, part 2. You don't have to have come to part 1 because you're going to get everything you need. That's what we do. We make sure everybody's going to be all right. All right? Thanks for listening. Peace, guys. There's your preview.
We're angels, some mighty and some meek, and we're sent down from the heavens to achieve a destiny. Yes, we're angels, and we seek our own reproof, and we represent the same God who sent his only